If you want to, that's fine.
You're gonna move, right?
No.
Our next speaker,
You should.
our next speaker is a protagonist kind of for our club because he's going to do his first, he's going to complete his competent communicator series with his speech number 10. Max is currently working as a network architect and received his bachelor's and master's degrees in electrical engineering from Rice University. In his spare time, his hobbies include exercise, genetic genealogy, playing keyboards, and singing in a band, also singing in a choir, and weekly for a retirement home. Max is married and is the is the father of 3 daughters, and he's also the treasurer of the club. Welcome, Max.
Very much.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, distinguished guests, fellow Toastmasters. Where's the mouse? Sorry.
It's up here on the
It's on
screen.
the wall, it's escaped. Jumped off the laptop onto the wall.
Maybe it's one of those 2-year-old sleepwalking.
Okay, pardon me for the delay. Welcome to my 10th speech entitled My Competent Leader and Competent Communicator Journey. I'm going to share with you my journey through completing the requirements for the Competent Leader and Competent Communicator Awards and hope to inspire you to help make our club a select distinguished club and better. Project 10 is the first speech with a minimum qualifying time of 8 minutes. No pressure here. The requirements for Competent Leader and Competent Communicator Awards are pretty straightforward. For both of them, you have to be a current member of the club, and after completing the roles or speeches, complete the application, submit it to a club officer, in our case the VPE, who signs and dates and submits the application. I previously mentioned that my first exposure with Toastmasters back in 1998 when I met my wife, who was the then president of the Professional Singles Toastmaster Club. At the end of the meeting I attended when they introduced the guests, or when she introduced the guests, I stood up and said, does anyone want to know the meaning of success? See, when I told the videographer that I was going to propose to her, he said, do you know what the answer is going to be? I said, yeah, I know what the answer is going to be. So he told me to use that line because he said at one of the previous meetings somebody had used that same line and gave the most boring speech they ever heard, so that's the rolled eyes when I got up and said that. And so when they introduced the guests and I went up there, I got down to the front and got down on one knee and proposed to her, and that was the first time they saw their president speechless. Not long after, we were engaged, and I was attending a Toastmaster roast for her as outgoing president. And I recently had the VHS tape converted to a DVD for some of these old things, and at one point in this video, someone stops and says, now if anybody screws up this marriage, they're going to have to marry Ellen. So it's an interesting warning. I began my own Toastmasters journey with our demo meeting in August of 2013, where I dove right in and completed 2 roles, the odd counter and table topic speaker. It was a challenge getting outside my comfort zone, but I figured what I have to lose. I might suffer embarrassment if I flopped, but I wouldn't lose my job or take a demotion for it. I saw the goals of attaining competent leader and competent communicator as achievable, and also saw encouragement from my then manager and took it on as an intellectual challenge. I also saw it as a way to have more in common with my wife. So I formed a plan and took the bull by the horns. I'd give a speech every 3rd meeting, no more than one every 6 weeks. In between meetings, 2 meetings, I would take on a role. Studying about an hour or so a day for the Fundamentals of Engineering exam for about 8 months, which I shared out at a prior speech, did present a significant challenge and increased my stress somewhat. You might not be aware that the last page in the Competent Leadership Manual is a tracking sheet application form. So I went through this particular exercise. Project 1 on listening. As I mentioned at the demonstrator meeting, I performed the first 2 roles of odd counter and table topics speaker, and then completed some other roles before finally completing this in January by evaluating a speech. Did project 2 on critical thinking, performing the roles of grammarian and general evaluator in February 2014. Project 3 on giving feedback, I spent several months performing those roles and completed it in May of 2014. For time management, I performed the role of topics master near the beginning of our club and completed the role of timer in May of 2014. Planning and implementation, I performed the first 2 roles at the beginning of our club and completed that in June of 2014. On Project 6 on organization and delegation, I completed the assignment by assisting our club's webmaster in September of 2014. For facilitation, I completed the project performing the roles of Topics Master and Toastmaster in August of 2014. Project 8 on motivation, I performed the roles of Speech Evaluator, Toastmaster in 2014. Completed the project at our prior meeting last month, which completed my 10th project that qualified me for the Competent Leader Award. So I did complete projects 9 and 10 before completing that project. And for 9 on mentoring, I completed that by mentoring a new member, providing feedback on the 3rd of his 3 speeches last month. And on team building, I performed General Evaluator and Toastmaster in September and November of 2014. For my Competent Communicator, I gave my icebreaker at the beginning of our club back in September of 2013, where my speeches have included my genetic genealogy and exercise hobbies, my goals, including my experiences preparing for the Fundamentals of Engineering exam, stress, 12-step recovery, and conserving paper when washing hands. I'm completing my 10th speech at this very moment, which qualifies me for a Competent Communicator Award in my role as the protagonist. So I showed you the plan that I developed and implemented that has allowed me to achieve my goals of competent leader and now competent communicator. We had at least 4 of our officers trained during each of the 2 training periods, qualifying us for item number 9. Had 4 new members last July and October, and 4 more new members in last December and January fulfills items 7 and 8. Last month's Tall Tales contest completed Competent Leader Awards for Kevin and me, satisfying items 5 and 6. So those 5 things now qualify us for our Distinguished Club status, and this is off of their website where they have the 5 marks checked, so we're qualified. We are a Distinguished Club. This speech fulfills half of item number 1. Between Kevin, Kira, and Jay, when they complete their 10th speeches, we'll be completing items 1 and 2, and we'll attain our Select Distinguished status. 2 of the 4 of us could complete items 3 and 4 and qualify us for President's Distinguished Club status. But since the clock resets in July, we can work on this next year. We have our work cut out for us. Together, we can do this. I shared in my 3rd speech that I've played in many rock bands and sang in numerous choirs, and my stage fright is indirectly proportional to how prepared I am. In choir, I usually get to hide behind my music and am in a crowd except for the occasional duet or solo. When singing at the retirement home, I get to read from music, but have been weaning myself from the 3 solos that I sing week after week. In a band I joined about 20 years ago, I started reading from my music and then was encouraged over a number of years to wean myself and move to memory. However, in my current band, for the past 8 years, I continue to rely on my music. I haven't had the time to take to practice my speeches and make them flawless and rely less on notes. I guess I'd rather get dinged for relying too much on notes than looking up in the corner of the ceiling and trying to jog my memory or forgetting what I wanted to say. In either case, it doesn't disqualify me for completing a speech. Even falling short of the minimum time allotted for best speech doesn't disqualify me for completing a speech. I know I can't compete with Kevin and others who've taken the time to prepare more polished speeches. Somehow I've been more relaxed with table topic speeches where I drop the reliance on notes. Both Kira and I have won the best table topic speaker the most at 3 times each. When I was younger, I was such a perfectionist that if I couldn't do something that I was totally confident in, I wouldn't do it at all. I had to allow the fear to paralyze me. Stress will kill you, or maybe it'll save your life. As I shared in my 6th speech, it all depends on whether you believe stress is harmful to you or not. For my recovery program I mentioned in a previous speech, I've improved my ability to shake fear and replace a fair amount of it with trust. Thanks except for going without notes. I'm glad I've not let my imperfections keep me from progressing. My aim when starting the Toastmasters journey was to become a better speaker, not a perfect speaker. My YouTube videos show that I have been improving and that it's made it easier to get outside my comfort zone and to take the risks. Suzanne Rowan said the rewards go to the risk takers, those who are willing to put their egos on the line and reach out to other people to a richer, fuller life for themselves. I have more self-confidence and find achievement in receiving these awards. My key point here is that if I can get beyond my fears, so can you. Together we can improve our presentations, grow personally and professionally, and help Canrig be a greater influence in our business and our community. Uncle Chris wants you. Thank you.